There is our wonderful Kate Stoneman. It's such an honor to be here tonight to speak about her. I often go out and about in Chautauqua County and talk about prominent people and events and things that Chautauqua County has contributed to our national history. And it's always surprising to me, and I guess I've learned by now, that so many folks who've grown up in Chautauqua County don't know our wonderful history. So it's nice to be able to spread the word a little bit farther all the way with you folks. And I'm sure many of you know about Kate Stoneman. And she's just such a tribute to these early pioneering women. And she came from a pioneering family. Her family were very early settlers in Bustye, which is a town in Chautauqua County, which is still primarily quite rural. She was born, we think, in April 1841, one of 10 children of George and Catherine Stoneman. She was not ever very interested in talking about her age. And her tombstone actually says, I have a slide I'll show you later, that she was born in 1840. And I'm not really sure where that date came from, but I'm sure she would not be happy to know that they'd added a year to her age. We're quite sure she was born in April of 1841. She herself described her parents as being liberal-minded. They had both been teachers, and they were very supportive of her ambitions for education. Although they did not have very many books to read and they did not have access to circulating material, she read and reread a large, musty old law book that her family owned. It was of interest to her, which is probably why she was able to read it and reread it, but it was also one of the few books that they owned. So it was a matter of her just having something in itself to read. She left home in 1864 to attend the state normal school at Albany. And to support herself, she found employment as a copyist for a reporter in the Court of Appeals. And I think her time reading that musty old law book probably served her very well in that capacity. She was paid 10 cents a page for her work as a copyist. So, just that fact alone, when I go out and I speak to school groups and I, tell them, how did you make a copy of something without a copier? And they're like, what do you mean without a copier? There were copyists, people employed to just copy material, and that was how she put herself through normal school. She finished school, and she was hired by the normal school to teach penmanship, drawing, and geography, which were really the only subjects that were open to women to teach at the time. When she was teaching, she became very active in suffrage activities in Albany. And she herself said that she was very proud that she was involved in the passage of a bill that provided for the participation of women in school elections in 1880. And the newspaper described her as the prime mover and the core and center of suffrage agitation in Albany. So I'll just show you another slide. This is much later. This is 1914, but this is just a really nice palm card that I found in a scrapbook. And, they're promoting the thoughtful woman voter and who she's going to vote for in 1914. So I thought that was just kind of a nice image to use. So even though she was busy teaching at the normal school, she was involved in suffrage activities in Albany, she really continued to have an interest in the law. And when she was asked to serve as executor of her great-aunt's estate, it really kind of rekindled that spark that she had. And she was given access to a family friend's law library, or library that he had in his law office. And she read law books in the evenings and on weekends, and thought that she would like to take the bar exam, and her friends, her fellow suffragists, encouraged her to do so. So without any formal education in law, she passed the written and oral portions of the exam. But this was, in the end of the 1880s. And at that time, this was just not acceptable for women to try to pursue a law education or profession. Most women at that time, if they were admitted to college, it was to study penmanship and geography. They felt that other subjects were too rigorous for a woman's delicate constitution. Many proponents believed that a university education would so sap a woman's strength as to render her sterile. And there were even some psychologists writing at the time who really felt that feminism was a form of mental illness. So luckily for Kate, she had a great group of friends in the suffragist arena, and also in the teaching world and in the educators. She applied for admission to the bar, and she was refused with the very succinct ruling, there was no precedent and no necessity. Who would ever seek legal representation from a woman? There was no law in place that would allow her to practice. So she marshaled those friends in the education arena and suffragists, and they drafted a bill which she introduced to the legislature that would provide women with admission as attorney and counsel. And they obviously had backing from enough men that the bill passed the Senate and the Assembly and was signed into law by Governor Hill, which was Chapter 425 of the laws of 1886. Kate then took that bill to the Supreme Court justices who earlier had denied her admission to the bar. And the decision is dated May 22nd, 1886, and reads, in the matter of the application of Kate Stoneman for admission as attorney and counsel, application denied. The code being thereafter amended, the application was renewed and granted. Thus, Stoneman became the first woman in the state of New York to be admitted to the bar. The Albany Knickerbocker Press later printed that a new day had dawned for the women of New York State, and from all over the country and from all types of people, telegrams and letters of congratulations poured in to Miss Stoneman. So she continued to teach, and she also decided to actually pursue a formal legal education. And in 1898, at the age of 57, she finished her law education and graduated as the very first woman to graduate from Albany Law School. It doesn't really seem that she had a very busy practice. I think she was more interested in teaching, but she did maintain a law office in Albany for 40 years. She was such a busy woman. She was also involved in the temperance movement, and she was passionate about the establishment of a world peace organization. And fortunately, she lived long enough to see the formation of the League of Nations and the passage of the 18th Amendment prohibiting the sale of alcohol, and also the passage of the 19th Amendment, which granted women the right to vote. And she died in 1925 and is buried in Albany Rural Cemetery. And there's her stone, which does give her birth date as 1840. There's a very nice bronze plaque in front of that, which tells us a little bit about her pioneering efforts in law, which is very nice. And in 2003, let's see, it was the Jamestown Bar Association and the town of Busti worked together to find a historical marker, a place for a historical marker for Kate in the town of Busti. And so there's a state pattern roadside marker for Kate as well, paying tribute to her accomplishments, that is in Lakewood, in the village of Lakewood, which is in the town of Busti. So, thank you very much.